And then, you know, I go to LSU. It's the only place I applied to. I didn't want to go anywhere else. I didn't want to go play football in college because football is a full-time job in high school, much less in college. And if you're really wanting to learn and expand your horizons, and if you got to work yourself through college, which I kind of had to do too, even with the scholarships, you really ain't got time for all that. So I put the ball aside and I went to university to get a universal education, you know. And in my second semester, me and my best friend Aaron Broussard were riding bicycles, and we were hit by a drunk driver going 65 miles an hour on River Road. And this was an intense experience, you know. I remained conscious the whole time. The first thing I can remember is like being in an undertow, and instead of water and sand, it was rocks, glass, and cement, and it was pretty intense. Aaron got hit first. He was riding right behind me. He was on a little bit smaller bike, and he was a smaller dude, so the car hit him towards the middle upper of his back. The car hit me and down towards my pelvis. So we're riding. He flies a little further than I do, and the fact that I got hit here, it was almost like I went, you know, forward and backwards at the same time. I was like going full, like I said, it was like being in an undertow. It was very disorienting. And I ended up, you know, kind of just sitting in the ditch after I stopped rolling. And I look to my left and I can see Aaron's over there not breathing in a pool of blood. And I knew right then that, you know, he had probably left his body. It was almost certain. But I felt like my back was broke. I had fractured my pelvis. I had cuts from head to toe. I had fractured elbows. My skin was gone on my chest. Cuts and glass inside of me everywhere. But anyway, I thought my back was broke, but I said, I got to stand up. I got to stand up and wave some people down. So I stood up, and it all went black except for what looked like a molecule of red, and it all came back in shades of red. And I'm waving there, and a couple of cars pass, and I'm not sure if I'm even there. I'm like, am I even here? Are these people seeing me? But I don't blame them for not stopping, because there's this bloody man in, you know, middle of the night waving his hand. But finally, a wrecker stops at the same time that a nursing student stops. The wrecker starts coming to me. I said, go check on him. And then I sit down and immediately start rocking. And then when the nursing student came over, I said, look, you see my Camelback down there? You hear that phone ringing in my Camelback on the side of the ditch? I said, go pick up the phone. I said, it's my fiance at the time. Tell her what happened. And, you know, after that, they load me into the ambulance. And I know this later because one of the owners of the company I worked for, I was working at Capital Cyclery, and one of the owners said he knew some of the EMTs on the scene, and they said that if they wouldn't have been at the rodeo right down the road that night, the ambulances already, that I'd have bled to death, no doubt. If they didn't come from the normal spot, I'd have bled to death. But anyways, because this is very serious. So as I'm in the ambulance and they're taking me to a hospital, I hear them say, I forget what the code was, but you know, we already have 227 on the scene, expecting another upon arrival. So they were expecting me potentially to die when I got to that hospital. And I remember the nurse, you know, cutting off my clothes, and I'm conscious and lucid, so I'm thinking, you know, maybe I'll be all right. I look at him, I say, hey man, am I gonna make it? And he doesn't change his expression. He says, I've seen worse men, and keeps on cutting my clothes. Now during this time, like I said, I'm completely conscious and I'm experiencing this pain. I'm not trying to escape it. I'm trying to be there with it and feel every sensation. Because through football, I learned to appreciate pain. But this was a whole nother level of that. And what flooded my consciousness was the story of Christ and how he suffered for the benefit of humanity. And as soon as I had that thought, I thought of all the people in my life that had took on suffering in various different ways so that my life may be better. And I was kind of flooded with this feeling, but also experiencing this extreme pain. And so I'm at the hospital. They can't give me nothing for pain or nothing because they don't know what's damaged internally or nothing. So I had to sit there with no anesthesia or no nothing for about 3 hours. And one of the things I had to do was roll on my side so a doctor could stick his hand in this big old open wound in my back so he could feel around to make sure my organs were okay. You know? I remember sitting there like a dog you see on the side of the road, just trying to cope. uh, 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 you know, for hours. A few of my fiance's friends were in Baton Rouge at the time, and they got there before she got there because she was a couple hours away. And I remember them saying, "Hey, you know, his fiance's about to be here. Could you please wipe down the room before she gets here?" And I wasn't paying no attention. But then after she said that, I kind of looked around, and they start wiping the machines, the floor, and all kind of shit. And at one point, you know, there was this nurse trying to give me an antiseptic, a shot to numb the area where I needed a stitch on my eye. And she was trying to get to it and she couldn't. And I said, well, how many stitches is it? She said, oh, it's just one, but I can't seem to get to it. I said, ma'am, considering everything I've been through, I said, why don't you just go ahead and give me that stitch? We'll call it my Superman stitch, you know? And we kind of laughed about that. I was just trying to stay light in this place of darkness. And it was very difficult because, you know, that doctor who I was talking about who stuck his hand in me, before I rolled over and did that, they said, okay, the doctor's in here and needs to stick his hand in you. I said, okay, give me a second, you know, before I roll over. The doctor goes, yeah. My guy was just ruining his day because I asked for one Mississippi just to get my breath going so I could turn over. Remember, I ain't got no anesthesia. I got fractured everything's, you know. So at that time, I was like, I just yelled and let him stick his fucking hand in me and be going about his way. Oh, everything looks fine. Oh, thanks, doc. But the nurses were great. And they all told me, they said, look, as soon as you can walk, we can release you. And to be honest with you, they didn't want me there because I didn't have insurance. I'm a poor person. You know, they were ready to get me out of there. And that's fine. I was ready to get the hell out of there too. So anyway, I can remember laying down after they got everything stopped bleeding and made sure everything's cool and took their x-rays. And I remember sitting up in extreme pain. Ah! And I'd lay back down in extreme pain. Ah! And it was like doing a rep. But I would do it in reps. I wouldn't just stop for a minute. As soon as I would calm down for a second, I'd sit back up again. And then I'd lay back down. And then I could sit up and then put my feet on the edge. And then I would lay back down for a second, catch my breath. And then I would do that. And all of a sudden, I'm walking steps. And they're amazed by this. And this was really intense. But because of this, I was able to get back to class a week later on crutches, bleeding through my shirts and everything else. But I needed to move forward. You know, I couldn't just stay there doing nothing. So I had to go forward through this. And this was a very trying time. And the man who died, who was with me, my best friend Aaron, was one of the best people on the planet. And I'm not saying this because he passed and it's all nostalgic. I'm saying, I'm not sure. He definitely didn't take advantage of women. I don't think he might have slept with one woman. But he wasn't, you know, he wasn't like most of the guys that I was around who were, you know, predators. Say hi to everybody. Hi. I'll be right back. Let me check on these guys. I'm back. Okay, so, you know, after this accident happened, I was pretty fragile and frail, as you can imagine. And about a month or so after it took place, not moving around too much, I started developing a little belly, but also felt real feeble. And so I started working out again, pretty hardcore, pretty much 6-7 days a week. And I started getting real pissed off. I started getting real angry at the man who did this to us, the man who hit us. I even went so far as to knowing where he lived. Obviously, I knew his name, I knew his address. And I started having visions of revenge. I had visions of kicking in his door, being all ripped up, which I was, and with a sawed-off shotgun and pointing it at him, letting him know that he had no control over the situation and that he basically had to accept whatever it is I wanted to do to him. And I was really building this up. I was really visualizing it and getting real mad. And I remember one day, said, hold on, let me just sit and really think about how I feel about this person. And as I did that, I got flooded with my love for this man, for all people, no matter who they are, but for this guy too, despite what I feel like he had done, done wrong to me. And I thought about tangibly all the things that this guy was doing in his life to honor what he did and to make better himself. And I was flooded with that. So, it was then, not too long after that, that I got my first two and only two tattoos, and one, is love. You can't really see it, but I'll show you sometime later that it says love. And one that says hate. And it wasn't like love and hate. It was hatred, and really diving into it and really feeling it was like a trampoline or a springboard into a greater understanding of love. So it wasn't like love versus hate. It was love, and then experiencing some pain, appreciating it, really diving into it, and it revealing to you an even greater love, an even greater life. And that's what happened. That's what I was doing when I was a child at 3 and at 5 and whatever. But you get caught up in life and you get into practicing different things and you get away from your heart a little bit. But I was getting back to my heart at this point. I realized that that hatred did nothing but build my love for this person and for humanity and for all people.